On this channel, you have seen all sorts of travel essential reviews and even some packing videos. But today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about personal items, like we occasionally do, but this time we're going to go over all the different types of personal items, what kind of trip that you would use them for, and the pros and cons of all of them. These are of course going to vary depending on the airline that you're going on, what you're going to pack, and honestly just your personal preference. Now I need to give a little disclaimer here and introduce something that I made recently that could really help you out. If you're going to remember anything from this video, remember this: not all airlines allow the same size personal item. Now, if you travel a lot like me, you already know that, and you're very familiar with the type of personal item that you like and what airlines allow what. But if you don't travel that often, or you're traveling internationally for the first time, you may be surprised as to what airlines actually allow as a personal item. Now, it is a super easy Google search after you've booked your flight. You can literally just Google blah, blah, blah airline personal item allowance, and it'll pop up. But I did all of that for you. I went ahead and made a list of every single airline that I could possibly find within the world, and I have found their personal item allowance and their carry-on allowance, and I have made one big, huge list for you that you can go ahead and download. The link is down below, and then that way, any flight that you book, you just pull up that list and you know what you're allowed to bring. For example, if you're flying within the US on a domestic airline, they are very forgiving when it comes to the personal item. So if you don't live in the US and you come to one of our airports and you're like, they're bringing so much stuff, it's because we're allowed to. So some of the personal items you will see today seem huge for some of you guys, and that's because they're actually allowed on some airlines. And then if you're from the US, you might be very shocked as to some of the personal item allowances in other countries. There's a couple of airlines that don't even allow personal items. So that's why my list is going to be extremely helpful. Go ahead, sign up and download it, and you'll never have to Google it again. If you guys are new here, I am Lauren Kelly from It's the Kellys, and I travel often and pack well and want to help you guys do the same. I have been to 88 countries and all 7 continents, and I've done it in a carry-on bag. Okay, so let's start off by showing you all the different types of bags that we are going to go over in depth today. We have a purse, a tote bag, a small backpack, a large backpack, a laptop bag or a messenger bag, a duffel bag, and an underseat bag on wheels. Now, all of the bags I'm going to be going over today will be listed in the description down below. I'm just basically showing you these as examples when I show you the personal items today. Regardless of which type of personal item, I have a few qualifications that make a personal item perfect for me. And I know that these qualifications are a lot of things that you guys look for as well. I love to have a good trolley sleeve so that my personal item can attach to my carry-on. I love outside pockets and inside pockets for the ultimate organization. A water bottle holder is always great. And of course, I have to have a laptop sleeve. It also needs to be waterproof. You don't want them to get wet, and you don't want your belongings to get wet either. Extra bonus if there is a lighter or brighter interior to see your belongings easier, especially on a dark flight. And extra bonus if there's a hidden pocket for your valuables. Stay away, pickpocketers. So let's start with something simple. We are going to talk about just a simple handbag. Now, we've never really discussed a handbag as a personal item before. But when I was researching all of the airlines on that list that I was talking about, I was blown away by how many airlines internationally don't allow more than a handbag as a personal item. Go ahead and look at the list, you guys. You will be shocked. So then I thought to myself, I mean, it makes sense if you're not going to bring a laptop and a whole bunch of other stuff, maybe this is all you need. Also, when you think about it, it's a really great way to bring your favorite bulkier or more structured handbag and not having to put it in your luggage. Plus, how chic is this bag walking through the airport? Ah. So the pros of bringing a handbag are obviously if it's within the airline's limitations, and then you can bring your favorite handbag without having to pack it. The cons of it are that, you know, it's just a handbag. There's no laptop sleeve, there's no water bottle pocket. You're just very limited as to what you can bring. Now let's talk about tote bags. Everybody loves a good tote bag, especially for everyday use. Now, if you were bringing a tote bag like this as a personal item, I would want to make sure that there is a zipper on top like this one so that you can zip it up, slide it under the seat in front of you, and you don't have to worry about anything falling out. Now, I would bring a tote bag with me as a personal item, especially if I were going to use this tote bag while I am traveling. Let's say I'm doing a trip where I'm doing a lot of shopping and it can be a nice little shopping bag while I'm walking around. Maybe I'm going to the beach and want to use this as a beach bag. Maybe I'm going on a cruise and can use this for excursions or even just day trips. This can be a great bag, not just for the plane. So the pros of this bag are, like I said, it's great to bring on a trip, especially if you're going to use it throughout the entire trip. And then the only cons about a tote bag, to be perfectly honest, because honestly, this holds more than a backpack, is only if it doesn't have a trolley sleeve. This one does, so it's fine, but if you have one that doesn't have a trolley sleeve, it could get really heavy on your shoulders to wear for an extended period of time. Now let's talk about backpacks, which is honestly my preferred personal item. My favorite thing about backpacks and why I choose them is simply just because there's two straps. You guys know what backpacks are like. So if there is a little bit of weight with this when it's fully packed, at least that weight is divided on my whole body so that it's an even amount of weight on my back versus a duffel or a tote bag where it's just on one shoulder. It's very important to me. I also love backpacks because if you are getting onto a plane and you have the backpack fully on your back, a lot of gate agents don't necessarily pay attention to the size of your backpack, as long as you can't really see it above your head. Some of those backpacks are so huge, like the hiking backpacks, that they're this big. They're gonna stop you with those. But these have kind of a really big size difference. And even though this one might be a little bit too big for some airlines, most airlines would likely allow either one. So this is an example of a smaller backpack that would be good for international travel. A lot of them don't want them to be as tall and definitely don't want them to be as wide, so you need to find something just a little bit slimmer. However, when you're traveling domestically within the US or on some other airlines that aren't very strict, you can bring something bigger like this. Now, when would I use a backpack over all the other ones? All the time. I love that with backpacks, you can totally use these within your trip as well. I know I mentioned for the tote bag as like a beach bag or an excursion bag, but you can totally do backpacks as well. And they're great for day trips. Now, the only time I don't recommend a backpack is when you're traveling with a carry-on backpack as well. You know, one of those huge backpacks I was talking about earlier, because then you'd have a huge backpack on your back and a small backpack on your front, and you would just look like a big giant lollipop or something. I've done it. A lot of us have done it, but it's not always ideal. If I'm gonna carry a big, huge backpack as my carry-on, that's when I'd probably opt for a tote bag. Now, the pros and cons of backpacks are interesting because some people are going to say that weight is a pro because you can evenly distribute it on both shoulders, like I said. But some people are going to say that the biggest con is the weight as well because you do have to carry it. Obviously, if you find one with a trolley sleeve like these ones, and most travel backpacks these days, you will be fine. And honestly, they're gonna weigh the same as a tote bag or something else. So weight on your shoulders or weight on one shoulder? You decide. Now let's talk about a laptop bag or a messenger bag. I've never really traveled with this as a personal item before because I don't really travel a lot for business, but I know a lot of you guys do. And if you're just bringing a carry-on and then you just want a good place to hold your office, this is gonna be perfect for you. It can fit your laptop, it can fit some paperwork, any other electronics that you need for work, this will be perfect for you. Oftentimes these will look very sleek and professional, so if you're getting right off the plane and right to some sort of meeting or conference, you'll be prepared and stylish. However, if you are going somewhere on business and you're extending your trip, you might want a different personal item, and that's okay too. So the pros, great for business travel, and the cons, not always great for the typical vacation. All right, now it's time to talk about the big guys. First, let's talk about duffels. Now, like I said earlier, something of this size is not always welcomed on every single airline. If you are flying within the US domestic where they allow something 18 by 14 by 8 inches, you're good. But if you're traveling internationally, it's probably not gonna work, you guys. Even if you're on an American-based airline, if you're traveling internationally, they are likely code sharing with a different airline, and those airlines can have different allowances. You could actually fly, Delta there and Air France back and have two different sets of rules when it comes to luggage. So I personally like to use a duffel like this if I'm going on a weekend trip by car or even just a simple overnight somewhere. This is not my preferred personal item when it comes to airplane travel. So I personally think that if you are using a duffel bag, you are either a minimalist where you're traveling with only one bag, or you're an overpacker that needs to pack more stuff in here because it didn't fit in your luggage. These bags hold so much stuff. So honestly, if you're packing things in your personal item that you just really need on your flight, like your liquid toiletries when you have to go through TSA, you need some electronics, you need your laptop, maybe some snacks, a huge duffel isn't always necessary. Because if I were to pack in here what I normally pack in my personal item for my flight, there's gonna be so much room left over. Now, with that being said, duffels can get extremely heavy when they're fully packed. This one has a trolley sleeve, like I said, so I'm really not that worried about the weight. But if you have a duffel that does not have a trolley sleeve, you're gonna be crying by the time you are done walking through the airport and crying when you are sitting in that security line, because this is going to get heavy. So the pro, it can hold a lot, obviously, but the con is going to be the weight of it and the size. Lastly, let's talk about underseat roller bags. So I personally like to use something like this if I'm flying a budget airline and I want to challenge myself and pack personal item only. A lot of the budget airlines will charge you for carry-ons, so a lot of people will use bags like this as a hack to still pack as much stuff as possible and not have to pay for a carry-on both ways. These bags can hold so much, even more than a duffel. And of course, they can still have laptop compartments and water bottle sleeves and all that good stuff that we mentioned before. Honestly, this bag plus a carry-on can hold 75 liters, which is more than one of those insanely huge pieces of luggage that you would check. However, talking about size, I again have to mention that something like this is not going to be a personal item on all airlines. Now, could this be great on those airlines as a carry-on? You bet. Use this as a carry-on and then use one of those backpacks that I showed you as a personal item. Now, they are on wheels, which means they're super easy to maneuver within the airport. And because they go under your seat, these are going to be very good for people that may not be able to lift things up into the overhead bin. So the pros about this bag are that they can fit a lot and it's on wheels, so the weight isn't going to matter. And the con is that it is too big to be considered a personal item on every single airline. So there you have it, guys. Those are all the different types of personal items that you could bring on your flights. Please download that guide because it can be really helpful when you're going to book a flight. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Let me know down below all of your thoughts and let me know your preferred bag. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're subscribed to this channel and that you follow us on Instagram so that I can help you travel often and pack well like I do. Happy travels, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.